When it comes to the needs in the world around us, homelessness, food insecurity, the needs are often so overwhelming that we don't even know where to begin to help. Well, I'm glad that you're here today because in today's episode, we're going to equip you to make a difference right where you are. Well, hey everyone, welcome to Epic Everywhere, practical teaching to help you grow in your faith no matter where you are on your spiritual journey. My name is Emily and I'm the pastor of Epic Online, and welcome to church, especially to those of you who are hanging out with us for the first time today. Hey, I'll be sharing some ways that you can get connected around here and how you can get your hands on a free t-shirt. I mean, who doesn't love some free merch? Well, today we're starting our This Is Love series, really one of my favorite times of the year. Every summer, we take a month to really reorient our hearts around radical generosity and love for other people. You know, Jesus said that the greatest commandment is to love God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength, all in. And the second one is like it, to love our neighbor. So we'll be living that out together this month. And as we begin today, I want to lead us in a time of prayer together. You know, This Is Love is a part of being all in. We're going to do a lot of serving and giving and loving this month, and we want to make sure that we're prayed up. And I'm praying that God would take what we do and multiply it in ways that we couldn't even imagine. Each of us will serve some hours and we'll give some dollars, and as we do, let's believe that God will use our efforts in ways that create a lasting impact in people's lives. Let's go ahead and pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much for this day that you've blessed us with. And thank you for this awesome opportunity as a part of This Is Love, Lord, to really put into action all the love and all the things that you've provided us and to make a way so that others can experience that as well. Lord, help us to be generous when it's hard. Help us to sacrifice our time and our energy when it's not necessarily the first thing that we want to do. And Lord, thank you for already preparing a way for those that we're going to encounter and interact with and reach. Lord, that their hearts may be open to you and to your love. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Amen. Well, thanks so much for praying with me. You know, it is no secret that there are some really big needs in our city and in the community that you live in as well. There's a lot of darkness, but we serve a big God, one who is a way maker and a light in the darkness. And as we go through This Is Love, our creative team put together a mini documentary series that will help to shed some light on the great needs in our city and feature our partner organizations who are working really hard to meet those needs. So let's take a look at part one.
What I love about this city is the grit and the fight.
Citizens Bank Park. Yeah, baby!
That this is home of the Rocky Steps. You know, we love the underdog.
I love the diversity of Philadelphia and the grittiness of Philadelphia and the unpredictability of the people here.
Well, it's so funny. When I first came to Philadelphia, you truly do realize you are an outsider. I mean, quite apart from the accent, which is obviously a problem because you can't say butter and you can't say water and be understood anywhere in Philadelphia. Sometimes I find it exasperating that if it wasn't built or invented here, it has a little bit of trouble getting traction.
It's like, hey, we can be rough, but like, don't ever say anything about someone else from Philadelphia because we have each other's back. It's this really this community feel, and that's what I love about Philadelphia, that we have a lot of character.
One thing to know about Philadelphia is there are families that's never lived anywhere else. And that's what's great about Philly. Like, it shocked me to first move to Philly and realize how many people have never owned a car. I mean, why own a car? Well, man, you got the block, you got to walk down the street, and you got, you know, come on, you got this and that, you know, it's right next to the John, all that good stuff. So, I mean, that's what's great about Philly, but the gentrification is real to push these people out of their homes and frankly out of their communities, and that's the thing that really makes me sad.
You can be in Rittenhouse, okay, and it's one of the most affluent neighborhoods, and then you can go over to parts of South Philadelphia and it's almost like you're in a different world. And this neighborhood from neighborhood, that we have this deep divide between rich and poor, and the injustice that exists between this gap is just not right. And it breaks my heart that we have some people that have more than they need and some people that don't have enough. And I feel like there has to be a way to reconcile that.
I grew up in England, and England is a country where there are safety nets for kids. And when I came to America, I was profoundly shocked, and particularly shocked in Philadelphia. Not many people know this, but Philadelphia has the highest rate of deep poverty in the nation of any large city. It's higher than Detroit, and I don't think people necessarily realize that. And deep poverty for a family of 4 means they're living on only about $12,000 a year. And that's difficult to believe in the 21st century, in a large city, in a very wealthy country like America.
Anytime we talk about housing instability, oftentimes it's just a simple aspect of arithmetic. Like A plus B does not equal C. And a lot of housing is just out of reach for a lot of people. On average, it requires $23.42 an hour based upon a 40-hour work week for one to be able to afford a 1-bedroom apartment in the city. So that is the equivalent to $48,720. And that's a whole lot of incomes and a whole lot of households in this city that can't afford a 1-bedroom apartment. And so boiling it down even more, it requires someone to work 129 hours a week at minimum wage to afford to live in this city. And so it's arithmetic. A plus B does not equal C, and housing for many, many in our city and throughout the United States is just simply out of reach.
There is 1 in 9 people in Philadelphia that are food insecure. So that's 1 out of 9 people. And in numbers even worse with children, it's 1 in 6 children. And it's not getting better. If we look from 2020 to today, the cost of food has gone up 25%. All of you feel this. When you go to the grocery store, the bill's getting higher, you're getting less food. Well, imagine if you don't have the resources. Now you can't get access to the food. So it's creating an insurmountable problem for so many of our friends and neighbors that can't put the food on the table for their families, prepare the lunches for their kids. Seniors that are on fixed incomes, they're not getting their money increased, but the food price is going up. It's a really challenging thing for people.
If a family is living in poverty, they're probably going to be food insecure, so a kid's going to be hungry. They may be housing insecure, so that what happens is a kid is surfing from sofa to sofa, passed between relatives because housing is unstable, because people can't afford some of the rents in the city. And then the trouble is they're often clothing insecure. Not having access to affordable, appropriate, and adequate clothing means that a kid will go to school perhaps wearing a cousin's t-shirt that's either too tight, or they might be borrowing a sister's coat and it's a young man. And they get to school, they don't have any confidence in the clothing they're wearing, because you know how good it is when you have something new to put on. So if you're wearing something that you don't like, but it's the only thing you've got, you're not confident, and often it leads you to being bullied or just stigmatized. When I think of a family, it's a family who had 2 daughters. They were a similar age, and they were good students, and they went to school regularly. And after a period, the teacher noticed that when winter came around, the kids were only going intermittently. One kid would go one day, one kid would go the next day. And what it turned out was that there was 1 coat between them. And so both kids couldn't go to school at the same time because mom didn't want them waiting at the bus stop getting cold.
All you gotta do is look out even a window like this and see all the cranes, and none of that is affordable. All of it is luxury, and it really is displacing people. And that type of renewal in an urban setting is very needed, but it can't be at the expense of being able to pave the way for others to be able to move here. It's gotta be a way to make it permanently stable for those who've always lived here to be able to remain here. All this brand new positive growth and redevelopment, frankly, is out of reach for most that is already living in the poorest of all big cities, which is the city of brotherly love.
We are for Philly because we really believe that God is for Philly and every person matters. That's why we do This Is Love, and that's why we're inviting you along for the journey. And today, you're going to have the opportunity to sign up to serve at a community outreach project and be part of demonstrating God's love. You know, last year during This Is Love, I got to serve with the Acts of Kindness Project. Dozens of us gathered together at the Love Statue in Center City, and we had a little scavenger hunt of kind things that we can do for others. So we scattered and took a couple hours just to love on others around us, from handing out water bottles to the PPA. I know that seems kind of weird, but even the people who are ticketing our cars need to be loved as well. We also took time to talk with those experiencing homelessness in our city. You know, so often we just pass by the needs around us, but this project really got us out of our comfort zone and reminded us that putting love into action doesn't have to be so complicated. And the impact that it can have when we slow down and when we love on others, it's pretty powerful. So I really hope that you'll choose to be involved this year. So here's how we're gonna do that. Everyone go ahead and get out your phone if you don't have it out already. We need everyone to text in. So when you text in, it'll also give you access to the hub. So you can text in by scanning the QR code on the screen or texting here to the number on the screen. And then when you text us for the first time, we'll send you a free t-shirt just to say thanks for being here. The hub is where you can also share a prayer request. It's also where you can give. You know, giving really helps us to keep Jesus first and support the ministry of the church. And the hub is also where you can stay up to date with all things happening and get involved. And that's important for today. It's where you can sign up to serve for This Is Love. So you'll see a button there that'll take you to all the projects that we have happening this month. Pick one that interests you and get signed up. And if you're not in the Philly area, we have ways that you can be serving the community around you. And listen, you don't have to serve alone. This Is Love is such a great opportunity for you to be able to volunteer with other people. You'll definitely get to meet other people from our church and other locations that you serve at. But listen, this is a great opportunity to invite someone to volunteer with you, a coworker, a buddy, a family member, someone else. And listen, for some people, this is going to be their first experience with Epic. It won't be coming to a Sunday service or watching us here online, but they'll volunteer with you at one of these projects. So spread the word and let's show some love together. We got all the details on the hub or on our website, ForPhilly.com, so check that out. Well, right now it is time to get to today's message as a part of our series, This Is Love. So let's do it.
Hey everybody, my name's Kent. I'm the pastor here at Epic, and I'm so glad that you're here for week number 1 of This Is Love. Now, if you've been part of Epic for any amount of time, you know that we don't have very many traditions. But this has actually become one of our favorite times of year because every July we come together as a group of churches and unleash a wave of generosity and love in our city through service and giving. And so the whole idea of This Is Love is that it's way more than just a series. It's actually an opportunity for us to come together and live out our faith and put love into action. And one of the ways that we do that is by partnering with some really great organizations that are doing some really great work in our city. 3 of which you've already heard from today as they've described some of the specific challenges that we face here in Philadelphia. Now, over the next few weeks, you're going to learn how those organizations in particular are meeting those challenges and how we as a church and we as individuals can have the opportunity to be part of what they're doing. It's going to be really good, but more about all of that later. Now, I don't know about you, but I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with the news. Like, I like being informed, but I kind of hate knowing some stuff once I know it. You know what I'm talking about? Like, especially if it's like depressing news. And I think that's because so much of what actually makes it onto the news is mostly bad news, right? Isn't that true? In fact, I think they should just keep it real and call it that. Like, dun 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 dun. Welcome to the mostly bad news. You know, my name is such and such. I'm your host, and today I'm about to cause you a lot of anxiety, right? Isn't that what it feels like every time you watch the news? And you know it's mostly bad because at the end of every broadcast, they always have to end with the feel-good story, some like half-hearted attempt to try and pull you back up out of the depression that they just pushed you into for the last several minutes. The truth is that it's not all their fault. I mean, we're not watching the news for all the good news that they're going to talk about. Like, no one really cares about how many planes arrived safely to their destination today. We care about the one that didn't, right? Like, because that's news. What's crazy is that we watch or we read or we listen to that news or the news every single day. Listen, if you had a friend who came over to your house and like every day they just came over to tell you some mostly negative stuff, like would you keep letting them come over? No, you wouldn't, you know, but that's what we do. We tune in, we watch, we listen every single day. Now, I think part of what makes it difficult is how much information we have access to. I mean, think about it. There was a time where you were only aware of what you saw or experienced for yourself, or what you heard about from somebody else who saw or experienced it for themselves. Like you only knew about the natural disasters or the wars that you or someone you knew were involved in. Like you were only aware of the poverty or the crime or the hardship that you saw with your own eyes. We, on the other hand, live at a time where we are aware of everything everywhere. Isn't that true? Like we're aware of everything everywhere. Like no matter where it happens in the world, we can know about it. And almost instantly because of our phones, right? It's like we get notifications. It's almost like they're saying, there must be some like mostly bad news to know about somewhere in this world. It just kind of interrupts our day. Truthfully, it can be overwhelming. Like so much so that it can be tempting to respond in one of three ways. We can respond by saying, you know what, I'm just gonna try to shut it all out, right? I'm just gonna put my head in the sand and stop watching the news altogether because ignorance is bliss. Like if I don't know, then I don't have to feel bad about it. Problem solved. Or we can respond by trying to take it all on, right? But if you try to take it all on, it's not long before you realize that you can't because it's just too hard. The issues are just too complex. Or maybe your brand of trying to take it all on is just to post about it. You know what I'm talking about? And so we've got an Instagram story or a statement or a repost about everything that happens in the world. Like 5 reasons why every Republican is wrong. Or 5 reasons why all the Democrats are destroying our country. Or, you know, I just want to use my platform to bring awareness to fill in the blank, right? And so we write up this post or we find this thing that we want to repost and we hit send and we're like, there, I did it. I posted. Problem solved. Is it? Like, is it really solved? And so we can't just take it all on. Or here's another one. One way we respond is that we try to just do nothing about anything and complain about everything. You know some of the people that are like this, that do nothing about anything and just kind of complain about everything. They're boomers, right? You know what? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. The truth is, I think we all can be tempted on some level to do this, to just do nothing and just complain. And one thing we know is that sure doesn't solve the problem either. And here's the thing. If you're not a Christian, I'm not suggesting that you believe or do anything that we're going to be talking about over the next few weeks. Right? If you're not a person of faith, maybe you gave up on faith a long time ago, you can take or leave any of this that we're talking about today or over the next couple of weeks. That's your choice. But if you are a follower of Jesus, meaning that you want your faith to be more than just a set of beliefs that has no real bearing on your life, meaning that you actually want to live in such a way that your choices are informed by Jesus and what he's called you to do and what he's called you to be in this world, like if you're that person, if you're a follower of Jesus in that way, then these 3 responses, to just shut it all out, to take it all on, or do nothing and complain, these aren't options for you. Like, you can't just shut it all out. You can't just ignore the suffering that you see in the world around you and pretend that nothing is happening. And at the same time, you can't just take it all on. There really is too much, right? The issues really are too complex. And it won't be long before you'll be completely overwhelmed. Or if your way of taking it all on is just to post about it, like, I don't know how much that is really helping. And you certainly can't just do nothing and complain either. And so what is it that we're supposed to do? Well, if you are a follower of Jesus, all three of these responses are a swing and a miss. And here's the reason why. It's because we have a responsibility to do something about the things that we can do something about. That's it. It's that simple. We have a responsibility to do something about the things that we can do something about. Now, this wasn't just something that Jesus said. No, this is what Jesus did. He modeled it for us. Like, all throughout his life, he had the habit of seeing the needs around him and then not just ignoring it, but actually doing something about it. In fact, one time, someone came up to him and shared how his servant was sick. And so Jesus stops what he's doing and, get this, follows this stranger to his house to go do something about it. Another time, Jesus was on his way someplace really important, and a woman who'd been sick for 12 years, she spent all of her money on doctors to no avail. She reaches up from behind him and touches him. And Jesus stops right there dead in his tracks, turns around, and he meets that woman's need. You see, what you see as you follow the life of Jesus is that he didn't see the interruptions as an inconvenience. Instead, he stopped and just did something about the things that he could do something about. Now, side note, it's interesting to me that what Jesus didn't do was permanently solve any of the society's issues or problems at the time. In fact, it's like he refused to be dragged into those debates about any of that stuff. Like, everyone at the time wanted to know how they were going to dethrone Rome. Like, how are we going to overthrow this oppressive government? But Jesus didn't even really address it. Like, he was far more interested in just meeting the immediate needs of the people around him, and then showing his followers what it looked like to live that way too. And at first, maybe you look at that and you think, man, that's a little bit of an oversight. Like, Jesus probably should have addressed these other issues of the day. But I don't think it was, and here's the reason why. See, Jesus was pointing to the fact that there is a deeper, more fundamental issue than what kind of government is in place at any moment. That more important than a particular kind of government or policy or system that's in place, or whether or not people are one party or another, more important than all of that is whether or not people have a relationship with God. See, he knew that we would never agree on all of those other things. That governments and policies and systems, they come and go. That those things are temporary. And so he spent his time and his energy and his effort introducing his followers, and by extension, you and I, to a different way of living. So the people that cross paths with us would experience his love through us, regardless of what side of the political aisle they are on or we are on, and regardless of what government is in place at any given moment. And so whenever you and I see something that we can do something about, man, we shouldn't ignore it. We shouldn't just post about it, just try to bring awareness by using our platform. I mean, that's okay, but we shouldn't just complain about it and do nothing. No, we have a responsibility to do something about the things that we can do something about. Listen, everything we have, our time, our money, our talents, those things are all on loan from God. It's not ours, it's his. Whenever you begin to see it that way, all of a sudden you feel responsible to make sure that you use those things well. In fact, I had a conversation one time with a guy who, at this point in his life, had done really well in business. And he was a young guy, but financially, he was kind of set for life. And we were having a little bit of a heart-to-heart, and he said something like this. He says, I'm just at a place in life where I just feel really comfortable, and I'm not sure what I should be doing, right? And then he looked at me and he says, with you, it's different because you have a calling, I've never had that moment where I felt like God called me to anything or anything like that. Well, here's what was going on. See, up until this point in his life, he'd been pretty successful. But what his heart was longing for was significance. And I think that he even felt a little bit guilty because of the amount of success that he had experienced. But what he doesn't realize is that he shouldn't feel guilty. He should feel responsible. He shouldn't feel guilty. He should feel responsible. He should feel responsible to use what God has given him, even his success, to then turn around and do something about the things that he can do something about. And so when you see everything that you have as being on loan from God, then you should never feel guilty, but you should always feel responsible. And when you embrace that way of living, whenever you make that determination in your heart, that hey, all that I have, it's God's, it's not mine, then you'll begin to make available all that you have for the benefit of other people. Just like God has taken what he has and made it available for the benefit of you and I. I mean, even if you find yourself having experienced a lot of success, you'll also find that you will also have significance because you've learned how to leverage what God has given you for more than just yourself. Now, this way of living, it runs contrary to our nature. Like it flies in the face of our culture where it's all about me and it's all about mine. And it's all fueled, this way of living, by a single command from Jesus, where he said that we should love others as he has loved us. And it's fascinating to me that the very last thing Jesus did before he was arrested and went to the cross, like his last official act, was that he washed the disciples' feet. Like here the disciples are, they're fresh off this argument about which of them is the greatest among them. And then out of nowhere, Jesus, their Lord, like Jesus, their King, their Savior, Jesus, the GOAT, the one who really was the greatest in the room, gets down on his hands and knees and starts washing their feet. Now, just to put this into context, just to bring a little perspective, rabbis didn't wash anyone's feet. In fact, the only people who washed feet were slaves. It was a servant's job to wash feet. But Jesus stood up, removed his rabbinical robe, which was signified like his authority, and he wrapped a towel around his waist. And then he took the position of a servant. And on his hands and knees, he washed his disciples' feet. Man, this moment for them was so embarrassing. They had to be like, oh, no. You shouldn't do that, not for us. In fact, it's exactly what happened with Peter. Peter's like, no, not me. But Jesus insisted, and he washed their feet. He washed the feet, get this, of men that were about to abandon him that very night. Peter would deny that he even knew Jesus. Judas, who was there, had already betrayed Jesus and is the reason why Jesus would be arrested just a few hours later. Jesus even washed Judas's feet. Now, I want you to look what happened next. John chapter 13, verse 12 says, when he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. Do you understand what I have done for you? He asked them. They didn't. So he goes on, verse 13. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. He says, you call me Lord? And you're right about that. Like I am the Lord. That's who I am, right? In fact, I had just raised Lazarus from the dead just to show you who I am, who you're dealing with, right? I am him, is what he was saying. And so do you understand what I've done for you? Do you understand the significance of what just happened? Verse 14. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. In other words, he's saying, hey, like stop bickering about who's the greatest of all and just be willing to be a servant of all. That's more like me. Verse 15. I have set you an example that you should think about. I've set you an example that you should write down, that you should agree with. No. That you should consider. No. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. He's saying an example has been set for you as a follower of Jesus. An example has been set for me as a follower of Jesus. An example here was set for any and everyone who calls themselves followers of Jesus, that we should do for others what Jesus has done for us. Gang, these are our marching orders. Like, these are the kind of things that we're called to do. This is the kind of person that we're called to be. The kind of person who gives, the kind of person who serves, the kind of person who loves like Jesus. Jesus says, hey, as I've loved you, as I've served you, as I've given for you, as I've done for you, I want you to do for others. And so, gang, as we walk around through this world and we see needs around us, man, let's make sure that we don't just shut it all out. Let's make sure that we don't just ignore it and walk by. Let's make sure that we don't just try to take it all on and get overwhelmed, or take it all on by just posting about it and thinking that's problem solved. Let's make sure that we don't just do nothing and complain. No, let's choose to be people who take our cues from Jesus and simply do something about the things that we can do something about. And let's do it together, which brings us to This Is Love. Now, if you're new to Epic and you're wondering what exactly This Is Love is, here it is. And like I said, every year we come together as a group of churches in July to unleash a wave of generosity and love in our city through service and giving. And we do that mostly in conjunction with our community outreach partners. And these are great organizations that are doing great work all around our city in some different areas. And see, we made a decision a long time ago as a church that if we really wanted to make a difference in Philadelphia, then our best play would be to come alongside the best organizations we could find in the city. And instead of using our resources to try and replicate what they're doing, or in some ways even try to compete with what they're doing, we would much rather use our resources to partner with them and help them go further, faster. And this is the reason why we haven't started a food pantry or a homeless shelter or an organization that serves under-resourced children. We have partners who are already doing a great job at all of those things. And so we just want to come alongside them with some money and some manpower and help them do what they do even better. You might think, well, like, how much could we really accomplish if that's our strategy? Way more than you would think. I mean, get this. Over the last few years, you've spent more than 36,000 hours serving local nonprofits, and you've given away, collectively, our churches, $328,000 to help further their efforts and be a blessing in our city. I mean, that's amazing. That just blows my mind to even think about that. It's amazing what we can do together that we could have never done alone. And so for right now, as we land the plane here, I want to focus on the whole manpower serving part of this. This month, we're asking every person at Epic to set aside a few hours of their time to serve with one of our community outreach projects. If you follow the link on the hub, or if you go to ForPhilly.com, you'll see a whole list, huge list of opportunities that you can choose from. And here's just a few. You can pack boxes of food that will be delivered to people experiencing food insecurity around our city. You can serve at a food pantry. There's a bunch of different options to choose from. You can help fill backpacks with school supplies for kids who can't afford those supplies or backpacks here in the coming year. You'll do that in conjunction with a great organization called Live to Serve. You can help prepare and serve a meal for those who are experiencing homelessness. You can help beautify Gorgas Park if you're a green thumb. We've got a team of people that will be going over there to do some yard work and some landscaping. You can be part of a team that does random acts of kindness all around Center City. Or you can join me and my family and help sort and pack donations at Cradles the Crayons. In fact, our family loves this project so much, we do it every year, but here's another one. We love it so much that my daughter, for her 15th birthday, instead of having a birthday party, she just got a bunch of her friends together and they all went to Cradles to Crayons and they just served together. That's what she did for her birthday. I thought that was amazing. Or you can be part of a few different opportunities at another organization that's really near and dear to my heart called Philly House. This is a homeless shelter for men in our city where you can go and serve a meal, or you can play games with the residents. There's a time that we set up for that. Or you can take time and pray over each bed. Like, there's dorms. You can pray over each bed. And as you pray, you can leave a little encouraging note for the guy who sleeps in that bed. I actually had the opportunity to do that recently, and I got to tell you, it was a moving experience. And I just went from bed to bed and just prayed, and I asked God, like, what does this guy need to hear? What encouragement does he need? And then I would just take the little card that they gave you and I would write a little note and just leave it right there. What was really cool was that I noticed that by some of the beds, there were little stacks of cards, these cards. And what's amazing about that is that I saw that these guides were actually saving the cards. Like they were literally holding on to those words of encouragement. And in fact, we're gonna give you an opportunity to do that today, right there where you are, right? As you're watching this in just a moment, on the hub, there's actually a spot where you can write a note for one of the gentlemen, one of the residents at Philly House. I think the title is gonna be Philly House Note. So right there in that field, you can just take a moment and pray. Ask God what that guy who's gonna get your card, what he's gonna need to hear. Just write a few sentences of encouragement, let him know that you prayed for him, and then we're gonna take what you write in that field and we're gonna put it on a card and we're gonna give it to one of the residents later on this month. Now listen, that is a way to serve, but that's not the only way I want you to serve. I'd love for you all to do that today, but I want you to serve with one of our community outreach partners or one of our service projects coming up this month. So make sure you look at that list and go ahead and sign up, all right? Anyways, like I said, there's a ton of ways to serve. So follow the link or go to ForPhilly.com and sign up for one of the projects. And if you live outside the Philadelphia area, that's okay. We got you covered. There's some information on there about some things you can do. We want to help you find a place in your local community to serve this month. So if you're having a hard time doing that, let us know and we'll jump into action and help you figure out a next step there. Listen, if we all would do this together, we'll do so much more than we ever could have done alone. So let's come together and let's do something about the things that we can do something about. Why? Because this is love. Let me pray for you. God, we love you. Thank you so much that you first loved us. I pray you give us the wisdom to know what to do with what we just heard and the courage to do it. And Lord, I pray this month, as we take our cues from you, I pray that you would use this season to be an encouragement to the people that we serve. And God, also to begin a new pattern in our lives of service, of seeing needs around us and being willing to do something about the things that we can do something about. In Jesus' name, amen. Love you guys. See you next week.
Thanks so much for that message, Kent. You know, I love that God hasn't called us to wait around for someone else to put love into action, but he's called us. He's called you and me right here, right now. So as Kent said, in addition to signing up to serve at a project, I want 100% of us to take the time to write a note of encouragement to the gentleman at the Philly House. You know, we can't begin to imagine what they're going through and how void their world probably is of encouragement and of hope. So take the time to text here to the number on the screen if you haven't done so already, and share a few sentences of encouragement. We'll be transforming your words over to a card that someone from the Philly House will find on their bed. And we believe that that small token of kindness and encouragement and love is going to impact them in a really powerful way. So please don't turn off your TV or your laptop or lock your phone before you do that. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. Before you go, help us to reach more people and take time to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel, and take time to share this on social. You never know who else it can impact. And I can't wait to see all of you right back here next week.